Bill Gates owns more land than the entire city of New York. Jeff Bezos' land is double that, clocking in at 420,000 acres owned. And John Malone, someone you probably never heard of before, is America's largest landowner, totaling up to 2.2 million acres, a landmass slightly smaller than the size of Puerto Rico. Now, the United States is enormous, but a small number of these billionaires own 1.86% of all the available land in the United States, the majority of their land being forests, ranches, and agriculture. So what does this mean for you and I, everyday citizens? Is there a sinister plot going on here? Or is it just smart monopoly by good businessmen and we're being played the fools?
In 2020, Bill Gates made headlines for becoming the largest private farmland owner in the US. He had accumulated more than 269,000 acres of farmland across 18 states in less than a decade.
So Bill Gates has implied many times that he's just doing what's called strategic land banking. And this is where investors just buy plots of land in and around good quality areas, good towns, for the hope that someday those cities are going to grow and they're going to come knocking on the door and they're going to want the land, which obviously they're going to have to pay a premium for at that time. Naturally, real estate goes up over time. The old saying is they're not making any more land, so you want to buy some. These guys are taking it literally, and they're actually buying vacant land. Now, this isn't anything new, by the way, and this is the point I want to stress. See, lots of everyday Joe investors that you never heard of, your neighbors, might be doing what's called land banking, just buying quality pieces of land and waiting for an offer to come someday. Now, these guys are obviously playing on an entirely different level. Your neighbor Joe is buying 5 acres, 10 acres, 30 acres, with the hopes of someday selling it off for their retirement. These billionaires are buying tens of thousands of acres, the size of entire cities, out in the middle of nowhere for now, but in 2040, 2050, 2060, 2100. No, I'm not implying Bill Gates is going to live until 2100, although it's totally possible. He does have a lot of money connections. But this land is likely going to be held in a family trust and get passed down to the next generation. And the next generation hoarding wealth, which is a whole other issue, a whole other video. But that's how families stay rich and get richer. Now, land banking aside, the kind of issue with this is raising prices in these local areas of which these billionaires are buying lands the size of cities. See, these sales are setting a comp so that when the next buyer comes around and wants to buy 10 acres, 20 acres, 30 acres, a normal purchase size for an everyday citizen, they're going to have to compete with the price per acre that Bill Gates paid, that Jeff Bezos paid. And these guys aren't paying under market value or even retail value. Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and all these guys don't care. They don't want to wait. They don't want to negotiate. They're coming in and they're just buying land. And they're making very attractive offers to all of these landowners in the areas that they want to buy. So they're actually paying over market value in a lot of cases just to scoop up the land in these quality key areas where they want to be. Maybe they have insider knowledge of what's coming to these areas. There's many reasons why they're going to pay over market value, but in a lot of cases they are. So this is increasing the price of land quickly in these areas for the locals who want to be a farmer, who want to create a warehouse, a self-storage center, who want to develop land and build homes. This is raising the price out of reach. So that is a whole issue on its own, and it's kind of an unintended consequence because, like I said, these billionaires don't really care. They're not playing the normal rules. They're not in there to get a deal like you and I would be. They're just taking it. And whatever it costs, they're going to write the check. Because these guys think in decades rather than years like everyday citizens do. When we buy an investment property, we're thinking about, oh, how much can I make 3 years from now, 5 years from now? These guys are thinking, how much is this property going to be worth 100 years from now when the next generation and the generation after that inherit my family trust and inherit these properties? See, they don't care about short timelines. Now, Bill Gates seems like a pretty liberal guy.
That you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have, not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
I mean, I know for a fact he sides with the liberals because he donates to the Democratic Party all the time. I mean, he's in favor of vaccines and all of that stuff. We won't talk about that, but it's clear to say Bill is a liberal guy. Well, then what about this? See, Bill says he's a liberal. Bill donates to the Liberal Party, but money speaks louder than words. So why is Bill Gates owning land in states like Florida, Louisiana, Nebraska, Arkansas, Ohio, Idaho, and his smallest land portion that he owns is in the state of California? Now, all of those states I just listed, other than California, are what you would call red states or maybe purple states, but they're Republican states. They are low tax states, low regulation. It's easy to subdivide. It's easy to get permits. Most importantly, I'm going to say it again, taxes are low to almost zero in all of these states. So if Bill was truly this liberal guy, why isn't he buying properties in New York and have bigger holdings in California, in Oregon? So Bill says he's a liberal, but he votes with his money in Republican states. I'm going to leave that for you to decide. That's another video. But it's very interesting to think about. Now, the other thing to be concerned about with these guys buying so much land in one area is the monopoly they hold. Now, not only for the prices, we already went over that, but it goes beyond the monopoly of owning land and raising prices for all the locals. See, when you own this much land in one given area, you're going to have a lot of pull on the federal level, and most importantly, on the municipal level when it comes to zoning. See, it's kind of like owning shares, owning rights. And if you own half the friggin' city, and the city wants to come in this one small town and update the zoning so that it can attract developers to come in and build houses and change the zoning from agriculture to residential. And if Bill Gates owns so much land with all the lawyer power he has, he can say, no, I want to keep this land as agriculture. I want to keep this land as cattle ranch. There ain't no developers coming in here subdividing this lot, and you can't do anything about it. And if you try, I got lawyers probably bigger than the size of your city, so I suggest you move on. See, he could potentially be stifling the growth of these small cities in the middle of nowhere, in Idaho, in Louisiana, in Arizona. These areas where he's buying land could have seen investment, could have seen development. They could have brought in schools and jobs and homes, but because Bill owns so much cattle ranch land, it's going to forever stay a cattle ranch. And not only that, it's going to keep the housing supply lower. The big problem we have in America right now is no inventory. Now, at the time of filming this video, the real estate market isn't so high, and you're seeing a lot of articles about how prices are coming down, but the reality is, it's not going to last forever. As soon as those rates start coming down, we'll see the housing market naturally pick up steam. But we still have one giant socioeconomic problem. We don't have any inventory. And with guys like this owning so much land, blocking said access for development, blocking investors from coming in, buying and building houses, it's going to artificially keep that supply low forever or for a long time. So with all this being said, where is the housing market going? Where is it going beyond the land ownership of Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and this guy, John Malone? Which is why I'm sure you probably clicked on this video the most, is to see what's going to happen to you and me trying to buy homes and build our good old American life. Well, here's the thing. Like I said, we know that interest rates are coming down in the short to midterm. That's going to happen in the next few months. And obviously for the next 24 months after that, we know the trend. Interest rates are coming down. The real estate market for residential homes is going to pick up. Millennials who are now sitting on the sidelines are going to run back to the housing market when interest rates come down a little more and becomes more affordable. That is going to happen. I mean, we're already seeing that in countries like Canada. They are a good test pool because they already cut rates ahead of the Fed, and we're seeing activity pick up. And when you poll millennials, they are more hopeful now that real estate will become more affordable and that they can soon jump into the housing market. So whatever happens in Canada happens in America and vice versa. So we know what's likely going to happen when they start lowering rates. There's going to be more interest in the housing market. prices will then go up because, like I said, we have one giant problem. We don't have enough homes. And with a lot of guys hoarding land like this, it's just going to make that problem even worse. So how do you protect yourself? Because we can talk here all day about the doom and gloom of Bill Gates owning all this land. And maybe there is some sinister plot, some sinister idea to what he's doing. Maybe there is. But you and I don't really have time for that. We got to live our life. We got to build our wealth. We got to save our families. So you have to do what these rich people are doing. No, I'm not talking about owning land in the middle of Arizona and spend your life savings on it and just wait 100 years, but owning real estate. Now, I know what you're thinking. You currently live in Chicago. You currently live in San Francisco. You currently live in Milwaukee. More bigger metropolitan cities where real estate prices are high. It's not matching your income. It's hard to live there. I get it. Here's the thing. If you live in a big city like Chicago or New York or a big suburb, I get it. Maybe you can't own real estate in your specific town. And you can't leave either. I say you should, but I get it why you can't. Mom and dad are there. Your friends are there. You have a kid. You know, they're in school. I get it. You're rooted to that town. It's hard to just pick up and leave. Well, here's the thing. Continue renting in those cities. That's right. I'm telling you to give up on home ownership. An investor, me, a real estate investor, telling you to give up on home ownership. Yes. But you're not going to give up on real estate ownership. See, I want you to rent where you live, where you got to be, but you got to start owning real estate as an investor, rental property in cheaper markets. There's no reason why you can't own anywhere in the US. I'm a Canadian currently filming this right now in Canada, and we're buying up Florida like crazy. You can build a team, you can build a structure, and if you're just buying one at a time, you can do it by yourself. You could easily buy a rental property in Memphis, Tennessee for $80,000. If you can't afford the 5 or 10 or 20% down on an $80,000 house, you got bigger problems. You definitely have to subscribe to this channel, and we got to teach you on how to raise your income, how to invest in real estate, and make some serious money. But another example, you can buy a good quality 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a garage, a Pleasantville looking house just outside of Houston, Texas, a major city center. 180 grand. If you can't afford the 20% down on 180 grand in a small minor renovation and put a tenant in there and start building your wealth, like I said, you got some bigger problems than just this video, which I can help you with. I would love to help you with it. And the best way is to subscribe and start educating yourself. But all this to say, you got to focus on yourself. We can always pay attention to the economics, to the socioeconomics, what these guys like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are doing. But if you really want to get ahead and be wealthy, you got to start modeling what these guys are doing. Now, don't be a sinister weirdo maybe like these guys, but model them in what they're doing with their money, not with their words. And they're owning real estate.